1, 2, 3, 4. And that has this idea that with the repetition, you're gonna get stronger, they're gonna get more abilities from it. Well, it sometimes works. I know a lot of kids, they learn a lot of stuff with repetition. But the repetition sometimes takes the attention away. So they're so used to do that they're not gonna be paying attention anymore. So if that happens, forget it, they're not learning. And it takes away from variation. The brain needs variation to do something different. The brain, if you're doing something over and over and over, and if you're not getting results, that means there's a variation that you're lacking. You need to add something different to it, because that's food for the brain. The brain would just do something different if you give him a new piece. So imagine like if you have letter A and B, right? So you can do A, B, A, B, 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 A, right? You can do all those things. But if you add the C, look how many more variations you can get. So the cool thing about that is that sometimes when they learn something new, it doesn't mean that this new thing is just one little thing, you know, that they're gonna add. That new thing that they learn is gonna translate in so many areas of his life, because they're gonna use that pattern, that brain pattern that's getting more refined in many different ways. So that's why we really need to take every little step that they get and take it with a lot of enthusiasm, because that can change so many other areas for the child. So the variation, so they go through researches. Anat is very based on science. You know, she makes a point about us not fall into the energy thing and the holistic, you know, like the idea of the, how can I say it? Not based on science therapy, right? And I believe in energy. Is not, I'm saying that she really wants to make a point on science, you know, to show that. So there's a lot of researches through variation. So there's two ways to do variation, right? So there's a variation that we call related variation. So let's say you get your son and you want him to help him to eat by himself, right? So he does with the spoon every day. So then you get like a bigger spoon, or you get the spoon and you go around it. So the variation that you're adding for him is related to what he's doing right now, okay? And then the variation that is not related, that means that he eats every day at a certain time, and you, instead of like feeding him that time, you're gonna take him in a ride, or take him and do something else with him, right? Well, the related variation, it's very powerful, because that's what it is on a border. So you're already getting something that he's doing it, and you're doing a variation related to that. They don't know. When they see, like, they don't know it's their thing. It's a thing in front of them. But then they get the hand, and they start putting on their mouth, they start putting on their face, and then make those connections that is part of themselves. There's this thing. And then start, you know, then this self-image start being created. And sometimes for kids, especially like kids with spasticity, we see so many of them that they use the legs together as one. They don't know that they have two legs, because they didn't have this experience. They were private. They didn't have the chance as a baby to move one leg here, one leg there. It's always been together. So for them, it's one leg. And they made a lot of researches in labs and to see like animals, and that they see how the brain works in rats and monkeys. So if like they attach two fingers like that on the brain, is one finger. They really, biologically, it really takes it as one. So sometimes for those kids, it's so important. The beginning of it, it's not even like stretching and trying to open their leg. It's just the idea for the brain. There's two legs there. That can be huge. That can be the only way to get there. And that's, I think that's one of the beauties of ABM. It can look great. It can look great, sometimes as a therapist, I feel the parents, and I know because I'm a parent too, the anxiety, and they want, they're paying for it. There's like 45 minutes, and they want to see things happening. So, but that's so important. Just don't step on that, because that's the beginning. That's the beginning. You need to get their attention first, because when they have attention, they learn. They go into the process, they pay attention on themselves, and then the brain is on. Because without the brain there, nothing happens. So if you're with your child too, and you're like in a moment that you wanna teach something or get them to do something, stop, breathe yourself, put yourself together, and then go towards them. Because they know, they feel it. That makes a big difference. Okay, essential weight. That's imagination and dreams. So, if you think about imagination, what the brain needs to create, to imagine and dream, it's so fascinating, right? It's like a completely abstract world. They need to create that image on their mind, so when you're singing Itsy Bitsy Spider, come up the water spout, if they're in with you, they imagine the spider, they imagine this thing, and they're climbing in the rain. This is so important. For the brain, this is so important. They are creating this world. They are building this image. So, I know because my older son loves to daydream too. So we kind of when they do daydream, you're like, come on, wake up, do this, pay attention, right? Trying to get out him of the daydream. Wow. The thing is, what they realize with researchers is throughout your day, you have all this information that you go through, right? You have all this learning, all these images, information, new words, new emotional feelings and stuff. You need time to process that. You need time to process. Daydream, sometimes kids, when they're daydreaming, they're processing. They're processing the world. They're getting information and they're organizing them on their brain. So it's very important sometimes to let them be and let them go in their own world, because that's health for the brain. That's going to keep the brain organized, actually, for them. They're going to have time to process, to get this information. So, it's awareness, right? What is awareness, right? So, if any of you here into yoga or things like that, so we have this observer, right? That feeling when you're doing something that you kind of can see you doing something? That feeling that you can see yourself doing something? That's the observer. That's the observer. So when you feel the kid paying attention into this process, actually when they're into this awareness, they get very quiet, they get very internal, and they just feel it. You almost can feel the intensity when you're working with a kid when they get to that moment. That is such a juicy moment for them. They can learn so much when they're there in this awareness. And to get that, as they develop that, actually, as they go. Babies, even little babies sometimes, you can see them going through it, into this internal feeling. of exploring. And you need to do that. To create that, the only thing is you need to be there too to create that, or forget it. If you do not have an awareness of yourself, you won't be able to create the context for them to have it too. You know, you have the book in your hands, so every time you want to check, you can go and look through it. I really highly recommend it. I still read the book. Every time I read the book, I'm learning more and more with it. And that's why I didn't need to hand out, because with this book in your hands, you have it. You have it when you need it. On the side of that, you have the AnatBanielMethod.com that you can see Anat working with kids on YouTube. So you see the lesson and you can feel what's the amazing things that can happen. And I have my website too, if anybody wants to find me. I have my cards too that I'm gonna put over here if you have questions, if you live somewhere else and you need some help to find a practitioner, if you live far and things like that, I can help with that. And that's it. I'm gonna open for some questions now with you guys. Feel free to ask me anything, any questions you have.
So you said the first time you met with Anat, you did an intensive for like 1 week, twice a day. And then what type of follow-up did you do after that? And what type of results did you see in that amount of time? And do you now do that same intensive work with kids?
Yeah, so this week that I went with Anat, it's not just her that works with my son. She has a group. Like, you usually get one lesson with Anat when you go there. It's very hard. She's booked 3 years in advance and stuff. So, but then she has her team over there that works with her, and she kind of guides them. Well, that week that I had with Anat was the first time that I felt when I got home that Theo was able, he was thinking through it. He was very passive before my feeling. He was very fine, like just sitting on the little chair and stuff. So after that, he was crawling already, but I felt him more engaged in what he was doing. So with his toys, for example, before he was just looking at it, he was like turning his toys around and looking and trying to put the ball in it and figure out how did it work. He started opening cabinets, taking the pens out. So you know that those little things, and they're like when you see them after like an intensive, I was like blown my mind because we've been working with him so hard for 3 years before, you know. The maintenance usually happens like after you see Anat for a week, then you go see practitioners close to you. Depends on twice a week, once a week. You know, that depends a lot because the thing is, there's not really a fixed thing. You know, like there's not like a plan that you say, oh, you go there and then you go see twice. That depends a lot of the kid. That depends a lot of the person that's taking it. So I do intensives too. But sometimes, honestly, I have some kids, because it's just me, right? With Anat, you have like 4 different people. So sometimes, because it's just me, sometimes I do once a day. So I do 5 days, once a day, instead of twice a day. With some kids, I do twice a day. But some of them, I feel like if I do twice a day, they're gonna be like, oh, here she comes again, you know? So I kind of feel each one of autistic kids, they go lighter. I don't do every day. I do sometimes 3 times a week, and I give a space in between for them to breathe and, you know, go and process, and then I see them again. So that depends. Like I usually don't, when someone calls me, I don't say, oh, let's start like that. I usually see them first. I have one lesson, feel it, and then I make a plan after that, to be honest. Yeah.
Is that they're not getting approved because they're not meeting their goals. So yeah, so how do you go about working on that situation? I know it's nothing to do with the patient, but You have to have that before you can get the goals met.
Well, that's one part of like the system that I'm so like frustrated about it, you know, because I think they have this like paper that they need to put some cross on. Oh, yeah, this, right? So crazy, really? Human beings, they put in a, yeah, put in a box and see what they're doing. Crazy, right? I think the system here, at least you can get a lot of more stuff in other countries. I'm from Brazil and I have a lot of other friends that they have special needs kids over there, and it's crazy. They don't get anything. At least they give you the equipment, so let's give them credit for that. But on this time, on this other way, it's ridiculous, right? So when they say that, of course some kids, they hit some plateaus, some moments that the learning is not so blooming as it's other moments. But you need to respect those plateaus and wait, because there's other change coming. The human being does not stagnate. There's no point that they stop and that's it, you know. That's kind of, I don't want to use the word, but you know. So I am totally against this, you know. I've been to regional center and all that, and CCS, and I hear this, and I had big discussions. I don't think they like me, because it just, when you say that like a kid at a certain age, oh, if they're 7, if they're not walking yet, forget, don't teach them how to walk. Oh my gosh, even if they'll never walk, even if they're in a walker, the weight is changing. So they need to manage that. They need to learn to manage that. So if a kid that there's no other support, they still need someone there just to kind of like, oh, your weight is changing, let's go through it. They need to rearrange the whole thing. They need to keep learning because they're growing. So the whole process keeps changing. So it just doesn't make no sense, to be honest. I don't understand.
So how do you handle payment situations? I mean, I'm a physical therapist myself, and you're only allowed 12 visits a year. So how do you handle that with this? It sounds like it's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's the hard part, you know, because we're not covered by insurance. No. So it is tough. Unfortunately, wish all the kids will have that option to do it, but it's not. So that depends on the practitioner that you get. Like for example, me, like I charge $80 for 45 minutes, right? Some other practitioners, like if you go see Anat, she's booked and her center is just like, so then Anat's 400. I mean, 45 minutes. Some of her practitioners like 250 for 45 minutes and all that. But the thing is, like when you get to the bottom line, like if you invest on something that you can get a result out of it, you know. So sometimes I have parents that I know that they're it's getting too hard for them. I kind of give them some things. I see them once a month, and I give them some kind of like awareness. It's not even exercises, but things that they can keep doing with the kid at home that first see me, you know. So I usually do that. I kind of give them a little background. It's hard to do what we do. I cannot teach the movements itself because we study 4 years to do it. There's so much on the back of the mind, you know, you're a physical therapist, you know how it is. You have so much on the back of the mind before you do something. It's not just that like there's a feeling, you know, you move the arm, but you're paying attention on the rib cage and the pelvis, and you're looking at the head. So it's not just the arm that's moving, it's like the whole